Finally, an answer in canon to one of my biggest questions in all of Star Wars. What was it like when Anakin died and went on to become a Force spirit like Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Yoda? Well, today we finally have the answer, and it's a really great part of the new book from a certain point of view, Return of the Jedi. It just released and includes a selection of short stories that are canon, including one from Anakin Skywalker's point of view, right as he dies and moves through the Force. Without any further wait, let's dive into what Anakin saw and felt as he died and greeted Obi-Wan in the Force. It's really interesting. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know in the comments what you think of it, and let's get right into it today. In the end, all things died. Even stars burned out, and the Sith, even the Sith were consumed, evaporated into the barren nothingness of the void, where a generous and patient darkness completed the inevitable, a relentless, gradual claim over everything and everyone. That darkness always won, and yet a closer look into that void revealed its one weakness. Somewhere across the stars, amid the collapsing debris of a planet-destroying battle station, the mutilated half-machine body of Darth Vader fought for one, possibly two more final breaths. Vader's fiery rage and consuming fear subsided, a gradual withering until the most unexpected thing appeared. A spark, a single flame, and from the flame, words. They struggled to form, dying organs failing as much as cybernetic implants. But the words found life, one last push to express the most important things Anakin Skywalker had ever said in his life. "Tell your sister," he said as he gazed upon the soft, compassionate eyes of the man who saved him. His son. "Tell your sister, you were right." And with that, Anakin sank into the void of the Force, guided by only that single flame. But in the middle of this nothingness, the unexpected occurred. Anakin felt the flame within him, a growing intensity, radiance strong enough to have wings. And Anakin, everything snapped into place for him right now, a connection beyond time, beyond space, beyond worlds. He didn't just see, he heard, he felt. I know there's good in him, his wife, Padme. He is the chosen one. Train him. His first master, Qui-Gon. I know, Anakin, your vision is flawed. His Padawan, Ahsoka. Words and images wove around and through him, different times of the galaxy, making him the center of his own orbit, his own gravity, strong enough to tilt the very axis of the galaxy. Shmi, Padme, Qui-Gon, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan. He is the best star pilot in the galaxy, and a cunning warrior. Anakin took in the voice, an aged gravel that felt like the Obi-Wan Kenobi that he'd known for years, and yet was also different. Older, weary, somehow content, a stark contrast to the person who he'd struck down on the Death Star. Mechanical thrums had surrounded him for years upon years, a droning repetition that often was his sole companion. And now, nothing. Anakin always wondered if peace might lie beyond the noise of Darth Vader. Yet this absence of sound created anything but that, instead leaving only his thoughts and one clear, harsh truth. So many terrible things had happened, and he was the cause. He had brought destruction to the galaxy, pain to his apprentice, betrayal to his brother, death to his wife. If this intangible space, the sublest of shifts happened, a single intention to break the quiet and ripple outward into the Force. No, he would not stand for this. He would not accept that his story was over, that it ended on a single act of choosing light over dark, because he had so much left to undo. Anakin Skywalker refused, and he felt it, the fiery heart of the Sun Dragon, the heart his mother told him could conquer anything, if he just cared enough. Because Anakin refused to accept that things should conclude this way, this history of destruction, this life of pain. A determination grew, an intensity ready to overcome whatever stood in his way. Anakin would not die. He couldn't. A galaxy of wrongs had been committed by him, and it was up to him, the chosen one, the hero with no fear, the boy with the Sun Dragon heart. He would make amends. He would bring justice to the pain he'd unleashed. and he heard a voice. Anakin. Yes, a voice. Yet this was different, clearly not a specter of the past. Things didn't come with any memories or visions of things gone by. Instead, it was as if the words whispered directly into his ear, as if he wasn't a phantom lost in the oceans of the Force, but whole in body and spirit, as he once was. A powerful Jedi Knight, combat-ready with a drawn lightsaber and a wide stance, staring down dozens of battle droids without a single worry. In fact, this felt just like that, but different, because this came right now. Anakin. That voice. Obi-Wan, he said, or perhaps he thought. Somehow he communicated far beyond this plane of existence. The last time he said that name, it came with fury, guilt, arrogance. Now, a plea. Still trying to be the hero, Obi-Wan said, followed by a warm chuckle, one carrying the grace and wisdom of age. There's no HoloNet here to make you a poster boy. I'm not a hero, Anakin said. I have done such terrible things. I have caused suffering across all corners of the galaxy. He felt Mustafar, the fire in his lungs, the burns on his skin, Obi-Wan's broken face staring down as ash swirled around them. I have failed you, taken from the galaxy, from the Jedi. Back in that moment, Obi-Wan called him a brother, declared his love, and Anakin had only snarled in return, a fury taking over what remained of his body. Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan replied, saying, Oh, Anakin, one person may pull a string, one person may light a spark. However, all the pieces don't move into place by themselves. Years upon years, compounded by one bad choice, followed by a good choice, followed by a well-intentioned mistake. The will of the galaxy, of people, is different from the will of the Force. Their intentions, their actions, and those that preyed on them, it is a collective, not preordained, and not the mark of an individual. You do not bear the guilt of the galaxy, only for your own choices. But I made those choices, Anakin said, to kneel to the dark side, to storm the temple, to fight you, Obi-Wan. You did. Those do belong to you, Obi-Wan said, though his tone came with surprisingly little judgment despite his words. But so does something else. One moment that led to immense consequences. Obi-Wan, Anakin, I have asked you many times to be patient, and listen. That laugh again, a sound so familiar, and yet different, a change that only wisdom and age could bring. I have one final challenge for you. Do you trust me? This was Obi-Wan Kenobi, negotiating his way even through the strange, endless void of the Force. Of course he would do that, and of course Anakin would listen. In the end, that was who they were, who they would always be. Kenobi and Skywalker, Skywalker and Kenobi, because even though Anakin rarely admitted it, Obi-Wan was often right, and a sudden single light broke through the nothingness, a lone beam piercing the darkness, then another and another, so many that the veil of empty began to give way into something physical, something real, except the transformation went further than the space around them. It reached into himself, brought him somewhere new. Trees, layers upon trees, a dense forest where silhouettes blended into the dark of night. Above, the burning remnants of the Death Star still lingered, smoldering trails streaking downward. Another streak came, not the gradual descent of debris raining in the atmosphere, but a sudden blur, whipping from side to side. X-Wing fighters. They didn't come shooting red-orange blasts or glowing proton torpedoes. Instead, brilliant colors burst forward, festive sparkles lighting the sky, and with that, a radious cheer, voices of all kinds, mixing into a frenzied joy that transcended languages. Beneath the fireworks sat a landscape with so many flickers of light, the natural glow of flame. Around each, silhouettes moved in celebration, the galaxy's exhilaration captured in a single glance. One glow, though, stood larger than the others, not just in size, but also in shape. While joy surrounded most of the fires, this particular one had a stoic, lone observer. Anakin recognized the helmet on the pyre. More important, he recognized the man in front of it. This was not an exorcism, nor a purge. it did not mark the extermination of Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, weapon of the Galactic Empire. No, this moment was the opposite. Here, Luke Skywalker did the unthinkable. Luke had stared directly into the pain and the rage of Anakin Skywalker, and somehow he'd managed to see past it all. Now Luke stood alone, a son offering compassion to his fallen father. When he called out, "You answered," Obi-Wan said. "You chose him over the Emperor. You chose empathy over power. You chose a future for the galaxy, to break the rule of the Sith. You chose to bring balance, Anakin." Anakin watched, the heat of flames consuming the technology that had kept his broken body alive for so many years. Luke watched, too, sharp creases on his face. What must he be thinking? Not just about the galaxy, on the verge of change, but the legacy burning away in front of him. "He is a leader," Obi-Wan said. "He is both the present and the future." The statement came so definitively, precisely chosen words by someone who knew how to wield them as weapons. The future, with so many risks both known and unknown, the type of risks they used to keep Anakin awake at night, his mind racing at ways to solve every single problem. And the present, the one thing that Anakin always seemed to overlook in his worries. "Do you see?" Obi-Wan said, though the gravity of his words soon shifted into a more playful tone. "It took a lifetime for you to arrive. From your days on Tatooine, to your life at the temple, to everything beyond that. But now you are here. It is your final lesson." For so long, Anakin Skywalker had been the one who would simply find a way. Such a lofty goal, such a quaint idea. Anakin watched as Luke turned from the burning mound that held Darth Vader's armor, Anakin Skywalker's body. He moved with purpose, but this was not a walk of regret or mourning. Luke headed to the next step, to his friends, the handsome caped man dancing to the beats of Endor's native species, Captain Solo, the person Anakin had tortured and put into carbon freeze, shaking hands and hugging one compatriot after another, R2-D2, the droid that served both Padme and Anakin so loyally, and now one of Luke's closest confidants, C-3PO, the very droid he built in a cold Tatooine hovel, and Leia, a brave, bold woman, her face a perfect mix of her parents', not just in structure, but also the fierceness of her eyes and the wisdom in her smile. Anakin no longer needed to find a way. Others already had, and they trusted in one another, a bond so clear that it made complete sense that they defeated the Emperor and his planet-destroying weapon. Not because they were a ragtag group of pilots, smugglers, and dreamers, but because they were this particular group. Anakin watched as Luke embraced his sister, and as he did, he understood the message that was stated with so many times by so many people. Obi-Wan, Yoda, Ahsoka, his mother, Padme. They all urged him in their own ways. It was, in the end, the only thing that Anakin ever needed to do. "They are the best of both of you," Obi-Wan said. As if they stood side by side, instinctively Anakin turned to Obi-Wan, a motion that surprised him, given that they existed only in the Force. What surprised him more, though, was what he saw in front of him. His friend, familiar wry grin beneath a beard, not quite a fully formed body, but a shimmering transparent glow of the old man in Jedi robes struck down in the Death Star. Obi-Wan offered a smile, his eyebrow arched as he looked Anakin over. "That's new," he remarked. Anakin looked down, and the fact that he existed in the same shimmering glow as Obi-Wan did not surprise him. He stood there, his body reformed, the weight of his feet on the solid ground of the moon. But stranger still, and what must have caught Obi-Wan's eye, was what was draped over his restored limbs. Like Obi-Wan, Anakin existed in the Force wearing Jedi attire. Not the Jedi dark tunic that he wore as he fought Count Dooku, or dashed stealthily into Padme's quarters, but lighter, traditional Jedi robes, the kind that so many of the Order wore. Yoda, Mace Windu, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and of course, Obi-Wan. "I'm as surprised as you are," Anakin said, looking down at them again. "I didn't choose this. I didn't choose any of this." Obi-Wan's head tilted, his hand coming up to stroke his white beard. "Well then, old friend, perhaps you were chosen." Both men looked up to see Luke Skywalker, his mouth curled up in a weighty smile, like he could hear this conversation. A brotherly banter that Luke must have enjoyed with so many of his rebel friends. Anakin locked eyes with his son, an acknowledgement that things were different now. Things were better, and things would get better. Anakin glanced down one more time, and when he looked ahead, he watched as she arrived. There was Leia Organa, putting her arms around her brother, as bright cheeks framed a wide smile, yet with a familiar glint in her eyes. Anakin recognized it right away. Leia, like her mother, was already planning for the hard work ahead. "Theirs will be a long journey," Obi-Wan said. "Bold their future is," a new voice came, one that Anakin hadn't heard in nearly 2 decades. "But uncertain." Master Yoda. Anakin didn't ask how or why. He simply existed in this time and space, letting only a small thought wander if Qui-Gon Jinn endured here as well. Probably. Qui-Gon was never far from him. He just didn't recognize it until now. Brother and sister walked away, leaving Anakin with his thoughts, a strange and unfamiliar comfort at the very nature of acceptance of all things. "Did he see us?" Anakin asked his former master. Obi-Wan's chin dipped quickly with a nod. "What about her?" he asked. "She has taken her first steps," Obi-Wan said. "But what she does on her journey, that remains her choice. Leia has many gifts beyond the Force." Anakin felt his heart roar again, a fiery buck that called him to do more. But he tempered it, grounded his resolve. Luke and Leia, the children of Anakin and Padme, would outlive and grow beyond the legacy of their parents, with strengths and passions balanced by both experience in the Civil War and support of those closest to them. "I have faith in them," Anakin finally said. As if that phrase unlocked the universe, the Force began to fade from his view, the feel of his corporal body dissolving into the Force, and leaving him with a simple realization, an insight for the ages, so simple and yet so profound. At that moment, he chose the only thing that he ever needed. It just took one final nudge from Obi-Wan to get here. Finally, Anakin Skywalker let go. And that's our story today, of how Anakin Skywalker died and became a Force ghost. Once again, thanks to the new book, Return of the Jedi from a Certain Point of View. Super good. Have to recommend you all go get it yourselves. All 3 of them are really interesting. There might be more stories I cover from it from the future, but today I really just wanted to get this one out there. I've been looking forward to it for weeks. So, woke up early, read it for you guys. And yeah, now I'm going to go edit it. I'm going to post it. It's going to be great. You're going to listen to it. You're going to comment. You're going to leave a like. Alright, folks. Thanks for listening. Check out yesterday's fan fiction if you haven't. And I'll see you in the next video.